Good morning, organicologists. Good morning. Welcome, and thank you all for showing up today. I gotta say, you chose the right morning to be here. If you had a choice, this is it. I am so truly excited to see you all today, but as excited as I am to see each and every one of your shining faces, I am even more excited for our keynote today. Winona LaDuke, you'll see her, has got a lot going on. If you read her bio, you check out her website, you'll see it's a lot. I'm not going to spend my time up here today talking to you about that long list because that's ridiculous, but I do want to point out to you, some of you will have on your tables this lovely flyer for Winona's hemp farm. This is a new project she's working on, and if you're lucky, she'll talk to you about it. It's amazing. Check it out. It's a cup filler for all of us, especially if you attended the cannabis/hemp intensive yesterday. Super cool. So everybody, join me in welcoming to the podium today, Winona LaDuke. I'll get it. Yeah.
Hi there, how are you doing? Ani Nindoe Maganaduk. That means hello, my relatives. I'm really happy to be here with you. Thank you for the opportunity to come visit you. As some of you may know, I was raised in Ashland. Y'all know that? So I'm really proud of my Oregon roots and really proud to feel like I'm a partner in thinking about the future of agriculture and where we're all going, and I like coming back to Oregon. So my mother is Betty LaDuke. She was gonna come with me today, so give some positive vibes to her. At 86, she's given Ruth Bader Ginsburg a run for the money, man. She's like, Ruth is like way behind my mother. So she has an injured knee from her yoga practice, so she couldn't come, but that's my mom's art. I just want to put that up there with some of our art from my community, and just to say that I love my mother, I miss her, and I'm glad to be here with you all at this moment. So ani nindawe maganaduk, nigagwe gitamagas, binesi kwe indigenicas, makwando deam, gababani kag ishkani ganing undunjaba. Telling you kind of the place in the world I am from, Oma A King, the land to which the people belong. I think about that because, that's a lot different than the American construct of private property. The idea that we belong to land. We belong to land. We take care, we put our prayers, we put our love there. We build and restore our covenant and our relationship with land. So I think this spiritual opportunity that we have and no time like the present to do that. But more than that, I'm looking out to a group of people that are like me. We farm, we grow food. So I just want to say, kind of in the other part of the world, in our prophecies as Anishinaabe people, we refer to this as the time of the seventh fire. And it said that in this time, we will have a choice. Our prophets told us that the Anishinaabe would have a choice between two paths. One path would be well-worn, but it would be scorched. And the other path would not be well-worn, and it would be green. And it would be our choice upon which path to embark. And we're all pretty coherent, as Trudeau would say. We're present. I think we know where we're at. We know what is going on with climate change, with corporate warmongering and fear-mongering, with hatred. And we have the opportunity and the people to transform this society. It's our shot. So I'm ready to take it, and I think y'all are too. So I just want to say, in that context, my father, his name was Sun Bear, but when he came to see me when I was at Harvard as a young woman, he had 8th grade education, young man from the White Earth Reservation, wrote a lot of books, did a lot of good stuff, but he came to see me one day and he said, Winona, I studied economics at Harvard, he said, I don't want to hear your philosophy if you can't grow corn. Yep. And y'all know why he said that. Because there's a lot of unreal stuff we think about. Particularly, I think about a lot of our moment in the fossil fuel era, how much privilege we have, how little work we do. Really, let's just get real about it. I live in northern Minnesota, and I have this house that is largely heated on wood. Pretty much, we're going wood. Thankfully I have a bunch of 18 and 19-year-old young men who have learned the relationship between heat and wood. But when you got a big house, like, I don't know what I was thinking, it's like big log house. I was like, you want to be living in a small underground house in Minnesota in the winter if you're going to be doing that. So there's a lot of dumb things I done. But in this moment, like, I think about how much privilege we have in the fossil fuels era to think about a lot of stuff, probably a lot of stuff we don't even need to think about, frankly. And y'all know what I'm talking about. But then we have this moment to do cool stuff, and that's us. And in this moment too, we have this opportunity to not only, we have this opportunity to end the fossil fuel era. And that's what we pretty much got to do. I'm just going to say, I'm like the rest of you. I lived my whole life in the fossil fuel era. I had a good time. Did y'all have a good time? Them flowers from Colombia, got that one. You know what I'm saying? I like that Fiji water. Let's get some of that. All of it I could drink. It's from the furthest part away in the planet. You know what I'm saying? We transported our food 1,400 miles from farmer to table. We got a bunch of inefficient systems, and we got fossil fuel companies writing public policy, right? Now, the only reason I'm talking about this is that I really like growing food, but I spent the past 6 years fighting the Enbridge Corporation, single largest pipeline corporation in North America, Line 3, 915,000 barrels a day of oil, trying to head to Minnesota. Now, in 2016, we defeated them on a big pipeline proposal they had. That was a fracked oil pipeline, kind of like that Jackson Cove fracked oil pipeline. And we turned out. We prayed, we had ceremonies, and we filed lawsuits. And we stopped them in 2016, and then they came back with this bigger pipeline. But what I want to say, we've been fighting them, and if the regulatory system worked, I'm kind of like you. I'd like the system to work. You know what I mean? They shoved it down my throat as a Native person and said, this is democracy. I hope you like it. You know what I'm saying? So I wanted to work. Now, Minnesota is kind of like Oregon in that it could work, because it's not so much, in Minnesota, I would say that there's a little bit more, what's it called, regulatory capture by multinational corporations. You understand what I'm saying? When they write your policy. But on Monday, after a huge battle, the state of Minnesota refiled a lawsuit against that corporation to not issue a certificate of need. So what I want to say is that keep at it. In the end of the fossil fuel era, divestment is moving on these companies. And if we want to be able to grow food and take care of our communities, it's a lot better if we get rid of the pipelines, get rid of the combusting. And so just keep at it. But I just come to you kind of like with this moment where the little people won. People were high-fiving me in the airport. That's cool, huh? They're like, go team. I was like, yeah, we're the home team. They're like, yeah. I'm literally, the TSA guys love me. They're like, you can imagine, I fly a lot. They're like, good job on the pipeline, Winona. I was like, yeah. But we're all in it. We're all in it together. Actually, to be honest, the victory on Monday was largely due to the church people. They showed up the Friday before to the governor's office, probably about 100, 200 church people, like serious church people. I think their heads were hanging in shame with the idea it wasn't just going to be Indian people they'd arrest this summer in Minnesota. I said to the chief of staff of the governor, Walz, I said, actually, your mother is going to get arrested with me. And he hung his head, he said, I know. I said, let's just not make it happen, So what I'm saying is that in this moment, I spend a lot of time, I detest the amount of time I spend fighting fossil fuel companies, pipelines. I don't like, I've spent my whole life dealing with stupid ideas. And a lot of you have too. There's a lot of stupid ideas like the Trojan nuclear power plant. You know what I'm saying is like the list in Oregon is pretty long as well, right? And now is the time we got to stop the last round of stupid ideas and move to the cool stuff, right? And that's us. That's why I'm so happy to be here, is I get to talk about the future and the future in seeds. So this is my mother's art on the right, Rogue Valley flowers. And then on the other piece is a piece from our Mille Lacs Food Sovereignty Project on the Mille Lacs Reservation in northern Minnesota. And to me, seeds are about resistance and regeneration and hope, because a seed is hoping that it will be planted and have an opportunity to flourish into something beautiful. Really, that's the hope of a seed. And seeds, you know, our relationship with seeds is this relationship of regeneration and the birth of the next economy. And the birth of this regenerative economy. So I'm just grateful to be with all of you. So let me talk a little bit about regenerative economies. Let's talk about making America great again. My idea of when America was great was when there were 8,000 varieties of corn. You know what I'm saying? Tremendous agro-biodiversity. Now I'm just saying that because I think that you all know, because you're probably a pretty enlightened bunch, that, you know, who did most of that was Indigenous women. That's who selected most of those seeds, because we're the ones who know how, you know, what it's like in the field, how it preserves, how it tastes. You know, and so 8,000 varieties, we were not slacking. And we didn't need no white guy in a suit to tell us how to do that, right? So remember that, you know, that is where agriculture comes from, is this sacred relationship between us and these seeds. So that's when America was great. This is when America was great, when there were 50 million buffalo, right? Those creatures, single largest migratory herd in the world, created the topsoil, created the prairies, created life. And anybody here who does, you know, that managed grazing knows, you know, that animals bring life to soil. You know, that's when America was great. That same area where they used to have 50 million buffalo, there's about 28 million cattle who need an entire fossil fuels economy to support that. Because a cow can't live in a blizzard. They'll run from a snow and a buffalo will walk into it. And these snowstorms, the buffalo have stayed. You know, I was at Yellowstone 15 years ago, you know, out there trying to stop the next round of slaughter. And I remember watching these buffalo, and they had this like corkscrew thing going with their head to get down to the snow, you know, through the snow to the grass. So what I'm saying is like rethinking. We have to, you know, if you want to get in the same box, if you want to try to recreate this next paradigm with using all the tools of this present, what I call Windigo economy, an economy of cannibalism, then we will not survive. We need to think big. We need to kind of like liberate ourselves, our ecosystems, you know, and our relationship. That's when America was great. This is where I live, Gawawi-Gamug, Round Lake, in the middle of the White Earth Reservation. I live at the headwaters of the Red River, which goes to Hudson Bay. My reservation is also the headwaters of the Mississippi. You know, 500 bodies of water and 47 lakes. An ecosystem that is dependent largely on wild rice. That's when America was great, when wild rice was in greater abundance, but we still have it. The place where I live, you can still drink the water from a lake. Not many places in the world you can still do that. And that is why we are fighting that company, because they're not going to take that water from us. This is Nana Buju and his grandmother, Nokomis, out harvesting wild rice. And this is wild rice. Now that's what a sustainable crop looks like. That is a lake. That's called Big Rice Lake. And that's me and Don Goodwin, another intervener in the fighting the pipelines, but that's our lake that was going to be affected by that pipeline. You know, and I'm just saying, you just take care of your lake, you take care of your ecosystem, and each year in succession, that rice will come back. 10,000 years harvesting on the same lake. That's what a sustainable world looks like. You know, and so that's what I'm saying is like, it is our opportunity to figure out how we can move back. We can move to a place where we restore our covenant with our plant relatives, our covenant with all of our relatives, whether they have wings or fins or roots or paws. That's our opportunity. You know, and people who touch the earth. You know, I really like, this one guy is telling me about how his grandfather used to go out and taste the soil. You know, I thought about that, you know, and you and I know that a lot of these farmers should not be tasting the soil in their fields now, right? But thinking about that, thinking about them old farmers, you know, in our area, who taste the soil to figure, you know, and they were, you know, we are of it, Akwenzi, that's an Anishinaabe word for an older man. It means from the earth, because of the knowledge that you get from living in the same place for a long time. Now, a lot of you probably got that. You know, maybe not intergenerational, but you and I know, we all know, that a lot of people don't even get out of their box and off their damn phone. to see the world, to see life. But we have this opportunity to be there. So this is when America was great, and in our territory it's still great. And in a lot of places it is. So this is this opportunity. Now, this is kind of my thinking about the intersection of the problem here. Conflict in worldviews. And I refer to, I'm working on this new book on, it's not the new Green Deal, or the Green New Deal. This is really called Indigenous economics, but that's really it. I call it the Sitting Bull plan. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but this is, what colonialism looks like. It's buffalo skulls, right? The brutality of the destruction of indigenous food systems is horrific. We're lucky that anything dam survived. Fort Berthold flooding, almost every Indian reservation happens to have a dam upstream from it. You know what I'm saying? Either took our fish or flooded our territory. For those who went to Standing Rock, and supported us in our struggle against the Dakota Access Pipeline, that territory is like a remnant. The flooding of the Missouri River took the best agricultural land. Took about 75% of the biodiversity in the forest, right? Bad ideas. A lot of dumb ideas, on this paradigm that we need to separate ourselves from. And then this is the beginning of the mining of the seeds. Now, if you look on the purple one, you can see that's Mandan territory. And that's basically the Missouri River. Center of agrobiodiversity in the north. Center of agrobiodiversity. So many varieties came out of there. A lot of those varieties today, of course, owned by Syngenta and Monsanto. But the original varieties, came from us. And that's what to me, it's this irony of you take basically the Nile River Valley of the north and you flood it out for some hydro projects. And then you relegate those people to intergenerational poverty by destroying their food sources. And then you wonder, they don't even wonder, they don't care. North Dakota, we call it the deep north for a set of reasons. But what I'm saying is that things didn't get like this overnight. And this is what it looks like. And Wendigo economics, that's what I refer to it as, because, and one of my deepest concerns about this moment, it's not a concern, but I'm a mother. I got a lot of kids and grandkids, and I don't want to say I kvetch a lot, but I just say I worry. I worry a lot. This is the worry thing, isn't it? But look, the next economy shouldn't look like that. That's my point. So as we are organic farmers and growers, let us not carry the bags of the last economy into the next economy, please. Please. I understand where some people are coming from, but I'm saying it is time to start moving away from that. Extractive ownership and extractive practices are not restorative, whether it is to people or whether it is to ecosystems. And so our work is really this process of decolonizing. Really, I think of it as decolonizing the food systems. Moving away from everything which is so reliant upon fossil fuels. In Minnesota, as we defeat this pipeline, those guys are the politicians, they're like, but that means we have more rail, my oil moving by rail. You know what I say to those? I think that first picture of me is me at a hearing. It's like, I say to those guys, I say it, I was like, do you want your heroin delivered by train or by pipe? What I'm saying is that, what are we doing? What are we doing? We need to move off the heroin. Reduced fossil fuel economics, to none at some point. And we're the people that are going to do it. We can sit around and wait for someone to take care of stuff for us, but in my experience, that doesn't work out well. Being a woman of color from a community that no one cares about, don't work out. Don't work out. So some of my stories are the stories of people, my community, where we're like, well, no one's going to take care of us, so we might as well do it ourselves. And that's what a lot of you are doing. So I'm glad to be here in that process. So this is some art from our territory, this is called, this is Anishinaabe art, and I just wanted to show you, in part because a lot of people I don't understand or haven't seen this, and I always point it out because I was, as you already heard, at Harvard, and I remember that if you wanted to see the art of Europe, you went to the fine arts department. If you wanted to see indigenous art, you went to anthropology. So what am I saying to you? I'm saying that it is possible that the answers to the problems we face now are not in the paradigm which created them, and that no time like the present to kind of like let go of that and look in a different world. So art tells stories. This piece is called We Are All in the Same Canoe, as you can see, which is basically all of us. We all got to take care of our water. We all got to figure out our food. So we've battled to protect that which remains. As most of you know, most of the biodiversity in the world remains in indigenous territories, right? That's part of the link between everything. Because everybody here knows that, the Irish potato famine pretty much should have taught us a couple lessons, hopefully. You don't want a monocrop, right? What you want is agrobiodiversity. So this is my friend Jerry Kotonui. He passed away about 1.5 years ago. I kind of refer to him as the Hawaiian Care Bear. Doesn't he just look like a Care Bear? And I remember this is his kalo, or his taro. And kalo in cosmogenealogy of Hawaiians, I always like that word cosmogenealogy or whatever, it's like. But anyway, just to say that in the beginning, the first child born was kalo, was a stillbirth. And so kalo was buried. And kalo became that, taro, the staple crop of the Pacific. The second child born was kane, the Hawaiian. So the kalo is the older brother or the older sister of the Hawaiian. Yeah? So the reason I tell you that is because that is the relationship that we have to plants. It's not some kind of a Linnean or whatever that is classification system. Linnaeus, is that what it is? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. It is just like they are our relatives. So when they, want to begin genetic engineering over there, the Hawaiians pull on out, to oppose genetic engineering of their kalo, the genetic engineering of their relative, right? This is another story, which is the Maoris defeating the genetic engineering of their potato. I'm really interested in potatoes. I suppose we all are, right? It's like the food that saved the world, pretty much, if you would have had famine endlessly if it wasn't for potatoes, right? Where did they come from? The Americas, right? A lot of the main food crops came from here, but this potato, some university in New Zealand wanted to genetically engineer it, and the Maoris, I wouldn't want to quarrel with the Maoris, they're really badass. So they all came out, but this potato is called Peru in Maori, and it has the highest rate of Andean genetics of any potato in the Pacific. And I just think about that because that was like the trans-Pacific navigation of Maori people to go get some potatoes over there, right? I'm saying those potatoes didn't go to Europe and come back, right? It's kind of like, what's the potato that's up here, the Ozette potato, right? The one that never went to Europe but, was hanging out there at Macaw for the longest time in like the sand, right? You all know what I'm talking about. But it's like, to me, I like these stories of how food travels and our relationships to each other. And that is in part why we make these battles to stop them from genetic engineering. And this is us on that same lake, about that same place that Don and I are, and that's our guys harvesting. Main source of income for our community, our wild rice, our monoman. I do have to say, I brought some. It's heavy. If you want to buy it, it's in the back later. But we defeated them, and that was a 2007, the state of Minnesota. I don't know how to make this go back. Oh, here. Oh, look, there you go. The state of Minnesota wanted the right to genetically engineer its paddy rice. Now, here in Oregon, you grow wild rice in a paddy. We don't think that should be actually called wild rice. We think that should be called tame rice. Like wild should mean something. You know what I mean? Like not in a paddy and not genetically engineered. Y'all follow me on this? It's a great food and it should be grown. I'm not saying that, but what we want is fair trade value for our rice. 2 sticks in a canoe. That's what we, you know what I'm saying? That's how we harvest it. We parch it over fire. It's like old school, you know? And this is our guys at the lake. I'm really amused. If you look really close, you see this USDA lentil bag in the middle of it. I was like, how'd that get there, guys? They're like, I don't know. But someday if I had enough time, I'd track down how that damn bag got in the middle of the White Earth Reservation from the USAID project someplace, right? Right, isn't that crazy, yeah? But anyway, my point is that 7-year battle. They announced they wanted the right to it. We show up, full numbers. 2007, state of Minnesota passed a law which required a full cultural and environmental impact statement before the introduction of any genetic engineered paddy rice, and they are not going to ever get it. They will never get one. So, I say that because there's a lot of similar battles here and elsewhere over the right of your seeds to have their integrity, to be able to continue to reproduce, to live free of contamination. The law of the seed, as Vandana Shiva will call it, the rights of nature. So we have simpler battles. I didn't know so much about it until, these battles over the GMO. So, it is these questions of how to challenge it and where we are going. And so to me, this moment is not only about, the big picture, but it is about where does our food go? Our community, Anishinaabe people, other people are interested not only in the recovery of the agrobiodiversity, but in feeding our people with our traditional foods. So this is a Lakota squash. Man, that kid grew up since, but he was so cute at that one time. Do you ever notice how kids are really cute at certain points? He's forever that cute little guy. And so, based on my father's urging, I became a corn grower in about 1995. I don't know, something like that. So I grow most of my life now. Interested in heritage varieties, interested in the corn that you make for hominy or pozole. You understand what I'm saying? Twice the protein, half the calories. The first varieties I grew, the one on the right is my friend Jonesy Miller, and he's got Bear Island Flint. It was, on an island in the middle of the Leech Lake Reservation. Our people used our islands not for mansions, but to grow. And you probably could figure out why you would want to use an island upon which to grow food in northern Minnesota. A couple things, not so many deer and raccoons, right? You understand what I'm saying? So there's like Potato Island, Corn Island. It's like all these islands up there, right? Now, of course, the white people got to come and put up some mansions. I was like, that's dumb. It's dumb. Now you ain't gonna canoe your stuff out there either, you know what I'm saying? And then they want a bridge, and then anyway, don't let me go down that path. My point is that I get like a little handful of seeds from this guy many years ago, like a handful that was collected, and I started growing it, and now we have fields. When I first grew it, I thought it failed because it was super short, but it doesn't need to be tall, it just needs to put on an ear, right? That's all it has to do. And because of its height, it's super resistant. So my corn is frost resistant, is drought resistant. When the big winds came through, all the Monsanto varieties tipped over, but mine stood. Grow for climate change. Grow for climate change. Grow food that's tough, grow food that's high in protein. Then grow some other cool stuff on the side. And so the pink lady, I haven't gone back to grow this yet, but, flower corn, really beautiful. Someone gave me that, seed varieties. They're being grown out. I want to get back with them. But people said, why do you grow pink corn? And I said, because I like pink. It's magenta, pink corn. How cool is that, right? People said, you should grow blue corn. I said, you should grow blue corn. There's like 8,000 varieties of corn. You could grow whatever color you want. Don't tell me what to grow. You all grow your own, right? Right now I'm growing red corn because I like red corn, And then that one on the far left is Pawnee Eagle corn, which has got to be the coolest looking corn I've ever seen. Like an eagle on each individual kernel. How cool is that? So the Pawnees are originally the Arikaras. They're the same people that grew up there on the Missouri River. Then they had a division of the people. People just some of them decide to move south. They headed to Nebraska. They live in Nebraska. They're doing pretty good down there, growing all these cool varieties. And then the U.S. came. They got on pretty good with their neighbors, they said. They said that they call the Pawnees kind of like, they shared, like the Pawnee women and then the settler women, like they shared a lot of good stuff together. And then they called the Pawnees kind of like was like calling AAA. Like if your horse was down or something, the Pawnees would come help you out. You know, old school AAA. So they got on pretty good, but the government moved them out. Forced relocation to Oklahoma. Their seeds would not grow. Their seeds would not grow. Heartbreaking. They lost their land, they lost the ancestors' graves, and then they moved to Oklahoma and they couldn't grow their food. And so one day, I just realized she just messaged me on the sacred Facebook. Ronnie O'Brien is approached by Deb Echohawk from the Pawnee Nation, and she says, Ronnie O'Brien from a museum in Nebraska, Kearney, Nebraska, asked if she could grow out some traditional crops. And the Pawnees were like, we don't have so few seeds, we have so few seeds. But they deliberated, the Pawnee Culture Committee deliberated, thought about it, prayed, and then they sent them back to the land that the seeds came from. And that's what she said, they flourished. The seeds remembered the land that they came from. Like that is this story of so much. To me, corn is this moment, because corn doesn't exist in nature, it's teosinte. Corn is a creation of humans and nature. And every once in a while, I get kind of weary of humans. I'm sure you all do some days. So it's like, oh my God, what a mess we are. But then I think of corn. I'm like, oh, we did that. I mean, y'all know what I'm saying? Like we could do some cool stuff if we do it the right way, right? I mean, that eagle corn. So it's this, to me, it's kind of this, also this, as you look at this moment spiritually and morally and ethically and it's karma, to me, like this is one way you sort out your stuff. So those farmers in Nebraska grew a lot of those varieties out. And then they had a Welcome Home Pawnee Days. About 150 Pawnee came up from Oklahoma and 8,000 people came out to see them. That cool or what? And they developed this relationship which continues, and I'm going to go check in on it, see how they're doing, where they're restoring their seeds and their foods. And so that is like this opportunity. If you have that gift to grow, let us work together. There are so many opportunities for, corn gives you this opportunity for, reconciliation. That's what that reminded me of, is you have this opportunity to fix something. And we have that every spring. Every spring we have a new opportunity to do something even more, beautiful with our plants and our relationships. So that's our corn projects. And then this is my friend, Frank Kutka. You make me laugh because that's his corn. That's how I knew I was okay. He's like he's like the USDA seed. He's like the USDA organic agriculture guy from North Dakota. He said he'd go to these meetings and he was like the pariah. It was like little corn projects. But the Ojibways and the Dakotas love him. He grows our corn varieties. And how cool is that? But that's what shows you, if you're gonna be growing in Eastern Oregon, you better be growing some dryland crop like that, right? That's tough. And then you have to rebuild your soil. Well, y'all don't need the lecture because you're farmers, And then this is me in my Manitoba white flint. That's my Vanna White pose. And now we will have an A. I know, but anyway, my cousins made me pose with the corn, but that's pretty cool, huh? That's like our little community, growing out our varieties. The Ojibways push corn as far north as anybody has, 100 miles north of Winnipeg, right? That's what that is. Manitoba white flint. And I'm gonna spend a lot more time growing that out because everybody needs to eat. And in the times of climate change disaster, and chaos that are coming towards us, we are the people who are going to figure out how to make sure our people eat. All of us. And everybody here knows that it is not just to ensure that we are able to sell it. It's to ensure that people have it to grow and they can eat. Making sure that people have food, is also, let us be clear. Not everybody's going to farm, I got this, but let us make sure that food is grown in these communities. that there are partnerships that are built, that relationships are restored, and that's how they are restored. It's through practice, not through talking about it, but through practice, Okay, now I'm gonna tell my cool squash story. These are a couple cool squashes, right? Now everybody's probably heard this story like 100 times already. How many heard my Geteo Kosovan story? Okay, wait. Okay, so the rest of you, then you have to bear with me then. Okay, so this guy come to my reservation from Bad River Reservation. He bring me these seeds. He's like, Winona, you got to grow these seeds out because you could talk about it and you're a good farmer. Grow these seeds. So he grew the seeds. I grew both these, but this is a Ricora squash and this is my squat Geteo Kosovan we call it. So anyway, he gave me these seeds. And I said, where does it come from? He tells me this story. The story is that there was this archaeological dig in Wisconsin, and that these seeds were found in this clay pot, how people saved seeds, right? And that the dig was, they carbon dated 800 years old, right? So I was super nervous about growing these seeds because my house had burned down and I was like all stressed out and I didn't want to mess with them. You know what I'm talking about. You got to be like in a good mind when you farm, So I was like, so then I grew it and then it just like flourished. And so, I started growing them and then our community started growing them. We have an Indigenous farming conference and we really got them back in our community. And then, a couple people said, well, that's really not the story. I was like, okay. And they said, well, we think that they're Miami seeds and they're 1,000 years old. I was like, okay, whatever. I mean, what I'm saying is like someone need to track down that because that's important to them. I just knew it was old seeds. So people kept saying, well, what's those seeds called? What's that squash called, right? And here's my board chair of Honor the Earth with his really cool. And I have to say I spoke at Willamette University in November. And someone gave me a squash that size. And my partner was like, no. I was like, yes, we're bringing it home, honey. I brought it home. I was so proud of it. It keeps. I didn't serve it yet. I'm going to wait till my spring feast. How cool is that, huh? There's like 1,600 seeds in that baby. What I'm saying is like that is possibility. You understand what I'm saying? That squash is all about the future. A squash is like a perfect fossil fruit, it's like something in the fossil fuel challenged era because it keeps itself, right? You get the right squash, you don't have to freeze it, you don't have to cook it, you understand what I'm saying? Anyway, so people are asking me what it's called, and I was like, well, white guys name stuff all the time. I'm gonna name this, right? You like that? I mean, you know what I'm saying? White guys are busy naming everything. You gotta name everything, And I said, okay, I'm gonna call it Geteo Kosovan, which means really cool old squash. Right? And so we're doing it, and then everybody want to buy the seeds for me, so then how you've arrived is when Baker Seed Catalog. It's kind of funny. I mean, I wouldn't sell them the seeds because I said, that's not me. I don't sell seeds. You know what I'm saying? But, for whatever it is, I was like, I have arrived. I mean, we refer to that catalog as seed porn. Does anybody have that catalog? You know what I'm talking about? The whole seed catalog? My entire community is like looking at that catalog right now thinking, what's Winona gonna grow? What are we gonna grow? We're all gonna do it. Anyway, so that's my little story about our agricultural work. And this is, where I think this is like this is our ceremonies. I'm a member of our Medewan Lodge. And this is Lower Manitou Rapids before they flooded it in Canada. That was there. And at the falls. So it's about super old religion, 5,000 years old. They found some of our stuff, our instructions. And this is my reservation in 1906. We practice today. But anyway, I told those people, I said, why got to get one of the mother greenhouses? Let's just make one of our wigwams, put some plastic on, we're good. So that's Bad River Reservation, they did that. So, this is like taking in this case, taking your Indigenous architecture and adapting it, and bringing with it home your seeds. So I just want to say kind of in this bigger picture, my colleague sisters and friends, Rowan White, I don't know if any of you know Rowan White. She's like tremendous, and Elizabeth Hoover from the University of Brown University. They're in the New Farmer's Almanac. I was like, that's like the coolest thing when some native people are in the New Farmer's Almanac. You know what I'm saying? Because that's, I mean, yeah, you don't need me to tell you. So this is what they said. They're talking about, across Turtle Island, there's a growing intergenerational movement of Indigenous people proud to carry the message of grand rematriation of seeds. Rematriation of seeds and foods back. Some of these seeds have been missing from our communities for centuries, carried on long journeys in smoky buckskin pouches on the necks of people who were forced to relocate from the land of their birth, their ancestral grounds. Generations later, these seeds are now coming back from the vaults of public institutions, seed banks, universities, seedkeeper collections, and some lying on dusty pantry shelves. We are welcoming them home. In the seed moment, we've begun to use the word rematriation instead of the more patriarchal repatriation. It relates to bringing these seeds home again. In many communities, including in our Mohawk tradition, these two are Mohawk women, the responsibility of caring for the seeds over the generations is ultimately within the women's realm. Both men and women farm and plant seeds, but their care and stewardship are part of women's responsibilities. So the word rematriation reflects the restoration of the feminine seeds back to the communities of origin. The Indigenous concept of rematriation can also encompass the reclaiming of ancestral remains, spirituality, culture, knowledge, and resources. It simply means back to Mother Earth, return to our origin. Life and co-creation, honoring the life-giving force of the divine feminine. I think about this because in this moment that we are in, as I said, there's this choice that you got to make on a path. One is scorched and well-worn, and the other is green. That's this moment. And what I'll tell you, is that the paradigm which created the scorched path, frankly, was largely white men. Let's just be honest about it, guys. And so I'm pretty sure that the next vision should not come from the same place. Y'all need to help us doula the next economy. That's what we're gonna do. We're the doulas. We're not gonna, someone was saying we're gonna forge the future. I said, no, we already did that stuff. We're not gonna be pioneers either. I'm like done with that. I got all these little triggers. Someone said we need a pipeline for people to understand. I was like, no, we don't do that one either. Like I have all this no, that word's not good, And so I'm not super OCD and super PC or whatever, but I'm just thinking start reframing what we're thinking. We want to be about the rebirth, of an economy and a way of life and a relationship that's restorative, that reaffirms our relationship as men and women, to our Mother Earth. Because that's the green path. That's how we're going to survive. This is our little food economy work on my reservation. That's why you got to get food local. We spend 86% of our money off reservation buying food from junk, basically from Walmart. Poor people in my community, so I want to rebuild our food economy. That's what we're working on, right? And this is me in the how you restore the soil. I went to Red Lake, got a bunch of fish guts. This is me looking at these guys and their fish gut to fish emulsion factory. This is dram. Have you guys seen dram stuff? They do all the hoses and they have all the really cute farm gardening stuff. Does anybody know who dram is? D-R-A-M? I was you guys hung out with me. I was I'm gonna go see them. I'm right down the road. So I go over there. And I was so this is them on the way. And what I'm saying, we aren't going to discuss how much fish is wasted in the overfishing industry, but what we are going to say is that as we transform that, those fish guts need to go back to soil. That's what we're doing in Minnesota. And so this is us putting our Red Lake fish guts on the field. I don't know why we got that, looks crazy. And this is me with my sister with our horses and our fish gut program. So I'm really interested in post-petroleum agriculture with the horses. I have a lot of horses, and I have about 5 work horses. And so a lot of our farming, our smaller scale, is horse agriculture. And if there's anybody really clever at that who wants to come visit me, that'd be great. It's a lot of fun, and I like it, and I need a lot more coaching on it. But to me, there's something also about the scale and the intimacy, which is my choice. And I don't have the physical ability to produce as much food as I do with my horses. And so this is my hemp field. I look really stoned. I'm totally not stoned. I just like to save that picture because it's like so funny. But what happened, and you guys have my little flyer, so what happened is that this was the first picture, then there's a second picture which is on the flyer, because the neighbor, this is on the White Earth Reservation, and the neighbor, you know, and we have checkerboarded reservations, so a white guy neighbor called and was complaining about the noxious weeds in the field. And so I went out there and I was like, those noxious weeds? This is fiber hemp. I'm a fiber hemp grower. I do grow some CBDs. I'm really interested in CBDs. That's great. You know, and I support all of that. I'm actually super concerned about Oregon's marijuana industry, though, for a whole set of reasons. You know, one is that I basically don't think, you know, a seed is not a slave, and a plant is not just for profit. And the reason I bring this up is I just went to, you know, Minnesota's hemp. For 3 years, I've had a state of Minnesota license to grow industrial hemp, right? So I've been growing these French, you know, all these varieties that came from Europe, because of course everybody here knows that we don't grow those things. You know, we didn't grow those things, it was illegal. But Minnesota used to have 11 hemp mills, plus rope mills, right? And so that's what I want. You know, I'm interested in changing the textile economy, because everybody here knows that cotton is destructive. Everybody here knows that, you know, the way that we deconstructed the textile industry in this country, and I want it back. You know, I heard that there's a really good flax project in the Willamette Valley. I'd really love to visit with those people, you know, because these are the same complexities of scale, right? Organic. So I'm an organic farmer, organic hemp. My goal is to have, you know, a number of organic farmers grow this fiber hemp. This is my field. This is my relatives. That's what it looks like. Then we got a decorticator, a field decorticator from China. You know, looking for a decorticator. Anybody try to look for that for their hemp field yet? It's like looking for a unicorn. I'm telling you, someone's like, well, there's these like plans on you know, the internet, and this other guy's gonna make one, and someone made this thing, and I was like, oh my God. So I like follow up all these leads, right? Like I'm like, you know, and then I was at NOCO, which is like the Northern Colorado Hemp Conference last year. I felt like it was so funny because, you know, you guys hung out with me. I'm like, I'm super fun. I think I'm great. But, you know, I hang out with all these guys, like these white farmers in northern Minnesota, and you say you're a hemp farmer, and they like move to the other side of the room, right? Because they're all super conservative guys that drank, you know, way too much Kool-Aid and put way too much things that end with "side" on their crops, right? And, you know, then I went to NOCO, and I like felt like I went down the rabbit hole and was in Alice in Wonderland, because they were like slathering hemp on, eating hemp, wearing hemp, making cars out of hemp and decor, you know. I was like, oh my God. You know, it was like last year, it was like this liberating moment where I was like, oh my God, the enlightened people are all over here, you know. So anyway, since then with the Farm Bill, of course, I go to this damn hemp conference, I go to the state hemp conference, and it looks like, I was like, dang. I was like, oh, it's like, you know, I was definitely, no, there was, I think I was the only woman of color in the room, for sure, right? And there was 2 natives in the room. You know, but what I'm saying is that, and I was looking at those guys, and they're all shuffling, and half of them are trying to figure out, they're asking about glyphosate. And I was like, no, we're not doing that one again. You understand what I'm saying is like, as we move into the next economy, push for organic. That's why we're here, right? You know, do not turn that plant into a slave, and do not do it, you know, again. What happened? And so we are bound and determined in northern Minnesota that the next economy is going to look like me. Going to be a bunch of brown people in the north growing hemp, decorticating it. This is my partner Don. Let's see, where is he? This is my farm for Winona's Hemp, and this is my partner Don. Now this is what he's got here in his hand. This may not mean a lot to you, but what I'm just saying is it's like, this is decorticated and degummed hemp we did. That's like what you're after. Now, of course, we did it at a scale because Don is like handy. And I was like, honey, if you want me to make you a sweater, that'll be about 2029, the rate we're going. He like, want a spinning machine now? I said, no, honey, I'm not doing a spinning machine. You know, but my point is that you got to start somewhere. And the rebuilding and the restoration of this economy is like this moment, and one of the reasons I'm here is like, let's work together. Because the point is that the next economy, the one that is the green path, is not about competition, it's about cooperation. That's what it has to be. It has to be about cooperation. If you want to save your water, if you want to save your food, if you want to save your relatives, we got to work together. And in textiles, that's a perfect example, because a mill, no, that's good take. Like, I'm looking at a mill, I got this mill I'm looking at, which is kind of like a Johnny Cash song. What's that? One piece at a time. Oh my God. It's got like pieces out of North Carolina, pieces out of Maine, pieces out of Massachusetts, pieces out of Italy. I was like, oh my God, one piece at a time. But the question is scale, you know, how you're going to do it and make it happen. And I think the flax industry is probably about the same place, you know. So this is what we want to do. We want to build up, this is us, as a part of an integrated rural economy of our local food. And then, you know, in the old days, every farmer, according to the Commissioner of Agriculture, was required, those early pioneer farmers, or I don't know if it was just the East Coast, I forget, but it was like they were required to grow whatever food they grew, then each family was required to grow a 1/4 acre of hemp and a 1/4 acre of linen, or flax. Isn't that interesting? That was considered what each farm needed, and then the farms would go to the mill together, like a number of them would go to the mill, right? Like, that's what it's gonna need to look like. And that's what I'm gonna try to rebuild up there. And so, you know, I want to partner with Oregon because I love my territory here, and because things are moving here. You got vision. You know, and people know that this isn't the last economy. I feel like people get it. You know, and a lot of the people that are doing it, you know, I mean, it doesn't matter what color you are. My point was, in that last, you know, comment about the state, those guys was trying to bring all their bags from the last agricultural cycle into the hemp economy. And I was like, please don't. Please don't try to do this. You know, let's be organic. Let's be kind. So, last couple slides, this is my friend Lona. She's from Yellowknife, Northwest Territories. I was grown in a grow box in Northwest Territories. They don't even have topsoil there in Yellowknife. They're in the Canadian Shield, so they kept doing composting. It's like a Dene community, composting, and then they added, my favorite thing is caribou hair. Slow release of nitrogen, slow release of, you know what I'm saying? Caribou hair. I was like, if they can grow that in caribou hair, shame on me, I should be able to grow. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if you're growing that in caribou hair, what are we doing? I feel like a slacker. You know what I mean? And then here's, of course, my friend Will Allen. You know, and I love that man. You know, 1 million pounds on 3 acres. Milwaukee. Food for the people. Yeah, that's what we need, is food for the people. Not just, you know, cool, you know, not just cool food for some. We need cool food for everybody. That's kind of my role models, a couple of them there. And then this is our association. You know, a lot of you know I've been a member of Slow Food since 2003, when we won the International Slow Food Award for defeating the genetic engineering of wild rice. You know, and I love this movement. And I think a lot about it, and I know, you know, the older I get, the more I look out there and I think, you know, we're like way jacked up on fossil fuels. We're moving really fast. You know, we don't even see, like, I ride a lot of horse, and I see things that you're never gonna see from a car, right? And so this idea of slow, like slow, just everybody take a breath and slow your stuff down. You understand what I'm saying? Because we can never go as fast as that crazy, and you don't want to. So take a breath. You know, now is the time when we think about what we're gonna do for the spring. What is that Camus quote? In the midst of winter, I find my invincible summer. That has resonated with me. You know, as I look at both the renaissance of hemp, you know, that's what we need, is a renaissance of thinking. You remember the last renaissance? They came from a lot of dumb stuff to the renaissance, right? Although when I was lobbying on Monday to stop the bill, to get our protection of the pipeline, there was a guy in the governor's waiting area who was from the Flat Earth Society. I was like, whoa. I was kind of speechless and took his picture. I was like, he missed the Renaissance, apparently. My point is that the Renaissance was this moment of enlightenment. The problem of the last Renaissance is that it was financed on the pillaging of the Americas, pillaging of Africa. Now, certainly we've got enough corporate wealth to divest to finance this next Renaissance, right? But the Renaissance is actually not about money, it's also about how you think. That's this moment. And this summer is our invincible summer. If we do not defeat these pipeline in the courts, you could come join us in Minnesota this summer. Camping is beautiful in Minnesota. I pray, but it is the invincible summer. And it is not about scarcity, it is about abundance. I love that quote from Mexico. They tried to bury us, but they forgot that we were seeds. Yeah. In the larger picture, there is this, my favorite is, I think a lot about the butterfly, or and a butterfly does something that no other creature does. In the process of turning from a caterpillar, going into its chrysalis and turning into a butterfly, it liquidates itself. It entirely transforms itself. There's some cells that appear there. They're called imago cells. And the first ones come out and they're all killed off. Next ones come and they're killed off. And then more of them come, and then they take over that being and transform it from a caterpillar to a butterfly. Imago cells. Imago is the same root as the word imagination. We are the imago cells. This is who I'm working for, my grandsons and my nephews, riding the proposed pipeline route, In this moment that we are in, we have this opportunity to take the path, to light the fire. Our seeds teach us. Our seeds teach us hope, promise, commitment. Thank you very much for your time, Miigwech.